I stood in Brandon's office trying to process his words. Pack your things. Your position has been eliminated. The termination hit me like a physical shock, though I had been expecting it for days. 1 week after Vivian's funeral, and here I was being fired. I kept my expression perfectly neutral. We will need all client information transferred immediately, he continued, sliding a folder across his desk. Especially the West Coast accounts. Vivian mentioned them before her unfortunate passing. That was when I knew. They had no idea she had officially transferred the entire $1.5 million portfolio to me 3 days before her heart attack. No idea I had already resigned via certified mail that morning. I will gather everything, I promised with a pleasant smile. Brandon seemed almost disappointed by my calm reaction. He had expected tears, perhaps begging. Instead, he got professionalism that unsettled him. You have until end of day, he said, dismissing me with a wave. I walked out past curious colleagues who had clearly been speculating about my fate. Some looked away quickly. Others watched with barely concealed satisfaction. One less competitor on the corporate ladder. At my desk, I began packing my personal items into a cardboard box Human Resources had already provided. How considerate. Susan from accounting approached, her voice lowered. Is it true they are letting you go? Apparently, my position has been eliminated, I replied, carefully wrapping the crystal paperweight Vivian had given me for my 3-year anniversary. That is ridiculous. You brought in the Coastal Solutions account just last month. I shrugged. Business decisions rarely make sense from the outside. What I did not say, this was exactly what Vivian had predicted. Exactly what we had anticipated. 6 months earlier, Vivian had called me into her office late one evening. Everyone else had gone home. Ethan, she said as I entered, close the door. I settled into the chair across from her desk. She pushed aside her monitor and slid a glass of water toward me. I have been watching you outperform everyone for 3 years, she said, yet they keep passing you over for promotion. 5 years at the company, and despite bringing in more new business than anyone, I remained stuck while less qualified men climbed upward. The executive team has a particular vision, she continued. And apparently, we do not fit it. The all-male leadership maintain their positions through an intricate network of favoritism. I am dying, she stated flatly. Cancer. 6 months, maybe less. I nearly choked on my water. When I am gone, they will carve up my client relationships like vultures. Unless. She outlined her plan. She would introduce me to her most valuable clients, the West Coast portfolio worth $1.5 million in annual contracts. But officially, these meetings would appear as routine support work. They are watching the big accounts, she explained, not the scattered smaller ones that collectively matter most. For months, we worked together in plain sight. I met with creative entrepreneurs, boutique manufacturers, and innovative startups along the coast. Vivian introduced me as her right hand. The clients trusted judgment. At the office, the whispers began. Ethan is spending an awful lot of time with Vivian, one colleague remarked loudly. Brandon began requesting unusual reports, asking pointed questions about client meetings. I provided just enough information to satisfy without revealing our true activities. 2 weeks before she died, Vivian finalized the paperwork. Legal transfer of client relationships, properly notarized. She paid the transfer fees from her personal account. They will come for you after I am gone, she warned. Be ready. The day she died, I cried genuine tears. But beneath my grief, her plan was already in motion. At her funeral, the executive team performed their sorrow beautifully. Brandon placed his hand on my shoulder, his touch unwelcome. Such a loss, he said. We will need to discuss transitioning her account soon. I nodded, eyes downcast. Whatever the company needs. That evening, the chief executive texted me. Meeting tomorrow. Bring complete client list. I stayed up all night preparing 2 sets of documents. One included every client except the West Coast portfolio. The other was my resignation letter. The next morning, the chief executive glanced at my incomplete list. Where are the West Coast accounts? I am not familiar with those, I said. She handled them personally. His face tightened. Search her files. We need those clients. For a week, I pretended to search while secretly meeting my inherited clients. Every evening, Brandon demanded updates. Every morning, I reported finding nothing. Then came my termination. As I placed the last of my belongings in the box, Susan touched my arm. "What will you do now?" I smiled. "I have some ideas. My name is Ethan Cross, and until today, I was a senior account manager at Oak Ridge and Partners, one of the most prestigious consulting firms in the city. I am 44, divorced, and determined in ways that often made my colleagues uncomfortable. Growing up in a small Midwest town taught me patience. Watching my father run an auto repair shop while raising 3 kids alone taught me resourcefulness. 5 years at this company taught me that playing by the rules was a luxury reserved for those who made them. Vivian recognized that in me from the beginning. The first time she called me into her office, I thought I was being reprimanded. Instead, she asked what I thought about a proposal the team had celebrated that morning. "It is fundamentally flawed," I said, surprised by my own honesty. She smiled. "Explain." I outlined 3 critical weaknesses everyone else had missed. When I finished, she nodded once. "Tomorrow, you join me in the client meeting. Say exactly what you just told me. The client deserves honest expertise." The client thanked us for our candor and signed a larger contract, specifically requesting I be involved in implementation. That was the beginning. Vivian became my mentor, though neither of us ever used that term. She pushed me, challenged me, trusted me with increasingly important responsibilities. When I generated a 30% increase in my portfolio's revenue while others struggled, I expected recognition. Instead, Brandon was promoted to team lead despite his mediocre performance. When the next promotion went to Travis, who had been with the company half as long, Vivian called me into her office. "Stop trying to be one of them. They have already decided who you are. You outperform them consistently without playing their games. That is the most threatening thing you could do." She was right. My results spoke for themselves, but numbers could not overcome invisible barriers. I watched male colleagues take credit for my ideas in meetings, interrupting me only to restate exactly what I had said to nods of approval. Vivian understood. As the only female executive, she had fought the same battles for decades. "Do not make my mistakes," she told me once. "I waited for them to recognize my value. Do not wait." Then she told me about her diagnosis, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 6 months at best. "Why tell me?" I asked. "Because I need your help, and because you deserve better than what they will give you when I am gone." Her plan was both simple and daring. The West Coast portfolio consisted of 25 clients she had cultivated over 15 years, small to mid-sized businesses generating $1.5 million in annual revenue. Not the flashiest accounts, but steady, loyal clients who valued personal attention. "These relationships are built on trust," she explained. "When I am gone, the company will distribute them to team leads who have no relationship with these clients. Half will leave within a year." "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to inherit them." The next day began our careful choreography. Vivian introduced me to clients as her trusted associate. To the company, it looked like she was delegating workload due to vague health issues. In reality, she was transferring her most valuable asset: client trust. Zara from a boutique tech startup immediately liked me. "Vivian never brings anyone to our meetings. You must be special." Mateo, whose sustainable packaging company was growing rapidly, was more direct. "Are you taking over for Vivian?" "Just supporting for now," I replied. "Good. I hate repeating myself to new people." By the 3rd month, I knew every client's business almost as well as Vivian did. By the 4th, some were calling me directly. By the 5th, we were ready for the legal part. "Everything must be documented properly," Vivian insisted. "They will fight you otherwise." We met with her personal attorney. Papers were drawn up, signatures notarized, client permissions obtained. One by one, accounts were officially transferred to me. The company remained oblivious. Only Brandon seemed suspicious, demanding increasingly detailed reports. The executive team needs visibility into these accounts. I provided surface-level information, nothing that revealed the depth of my new relationships. Vivian had warned me about him. "Brandon has been trying to get his hands on my portfolio for years. He knows those clients represent security." 2 weeks before her death, Vivian invited me to her home. Modest size, practical furnishings, no extravagance despite her executive salary. "I live within my means," she explained. "Financial independence gives you options. Remember that." On her dining table lay the final documents: Official transfer of client relationships to me personally, not to the company. Is this legitimate? I asked. Completely. I am transferring relationships I built, not company property. The distinction matters. She slid the papers toward me. Keep these somewhere safe. I arranged a safety deposit box that afternoon. They will come for you after I am gone, she warned, her voice weaker than I had ever heard. Be ready. 3 days later, her assistant called in tears. Vivian had suffered a heart attack in her sleep. The company's response was swift. A tasteful email, a donation to cancer research, a team meeting where the chief executive spoke about her contributions before quickly pivoting to maintaining client relationships during this transition. At her funeral, Brandon approached me with sympathetic expression and cold eyes. Such a loss. We will need to discuss transitioning her accounts. I nodded. Whatever the company needs. That evening, the chief executive demanded the complete client list. The next morning, I provided the incomplete version. Where are the West Coast accounts? He demanded. I am not familiar with those. She handled them personally. His face tightened. Search her files. For a week, I searched Vivian's office, finding nothing. She had been methodical in removing every trace. Meanwhile, I met with clients during lunch breaks and evenings, reassuring them. Continuity is everything in business, Matteo said. If they had assigned someone new, I would have walked. Then came my termination. Brandon barely contained his satisfaction, assuming I would be devastated. The morning after my termination, I awoke before my alarm. The strange silence of not rushing to the office settled around me. For the first time in 5 years, I was free. I made coffee and carried it to my balcony, watching the city wake up. Susan had sent 3 texts already, each more worried than the last. I answered briefly. I am fine, better than fine. I had been preparing for this for months. Before Vivian's funeral, I opened a business checking account, filed paperwork for my new limited liability company, secured a small office in a converted waterfront warehouse, walking distance from 5 clients. Do not rush, Vivian had advised. Let them show their true colors first. And they had. My phone rang, an unknown number. Ethan Cross speaking. Mr. Cross, this is Philip Ward, Chief Legal Counsel for Oak Ridge & Partners. The company would like to schedule a meeting regarding client relationships formerly managed by Vivian Morse. There is no confusion on my part, I replied. These client relationships belong to the company. Any attempt to redirect them would constitute theft of proprietary business assets. I had been expecting this. I have no intention of discussing this without my attorney present. Direct all communication to her office. I provided Catherine Hale's contact information. Vivian had introduced us months ago. This could be resolved amicably, Philip said. The company is prepared to offer a consulting arrangement. Goodbye, Philip. I blocked the number. 20 minutes later, the chief executive called. I let it go to voicemail. His message was terse. This is a serious matter. Call me immediately. Instead, I texted Matteo. Still on for our 10 o'clock meeting. His reply came in seconds. Absolutely. I showered and dressed carefully, choosing a charcoal suit Vivian had once admired. Power is not about blending in, she had told me. It is about standing your ground. Matteo arrived carrying prototype packaging. Nice place. Bit empty. For now, I am starting small. He set samples on the table. Got a call from your old company. Some guy named Brandon. My pulse quickened. What did he want? To schedule an urgent meeting. Said there had been a restructuring and he would be taking over. Matteo shrugged. I told him we are happy with our current arrangement. What did he say? He got very quiet, said he would have to get back to me. I smiled. By noon, I had confirmed meetings with 5 more clients. By 3, emails from 7 others reported similar calls from Brandon or other executives. At 4, Catherine called. They are threatening legal action. Breach of contract, client poaching, misappropriation of trade secrets, exactly as Vivian predicted, exactly as we had anticipated. The client transfers were executed properly with full disclosure and consent from each client. You never signed a non-compete. No trade secrets involved since all information was either publicly available or provided directly by clients. So we are on solid ground? Absolutely. But they do not know that yet. They are bluffing, hoping you will panic. What is our next move? Let them bluster. I have requested their documentation. That buys time while they scramble to find paperwork that does not exist. After hanging up, I crossed to the window. Vivian had loved this view when we looked at this space together weeks before her death. "Remember, Ethan," she had said, "standing in this exact spot. When they realize what is happening, they will try to intimidate you first. When that fails, they will try to buy you. And when that fails," her eyes still fierce despite her gaunt face, "that is when they will show you exactly who they are." My phone buzzed. A text from an unfamiliar number. "Ethan, it is Travis. Can we talk?" Not company business. Travis. The one who had gotten the promotion I deserved. "The Copper Kettle at 7, I replied, naming a cafe in a busy shopping district. I arrived early, choosing a table with a clear view of both exits. Travis walked in looking tired, the usual confidence missing. "Thanks for meeting me." "What is this regarding?" He ordered coffee before speaking. "Things are crazy at the office. The executive team is in meltdown mode." "How so?" "They are saying you stole clients. That you and Vivian conspired to defraud the company. They are building a case against you." "There is no case. They have pulled 5 years of emails, interviewing everyone who worked with you." "Why are you telling me this?" He stared into his coffee. "Because Vivian once did something similar for me, warned me when they were setting me up to fail. This was unexpected. I owe her," he continued. "And by extension, you. What exactly are they planning?" "They are contacting every client, claiming you misrepresented your authority, offering steep discounts, preparing cease and desist letters for all 25 businesses." He hesitated. "They also froze Vivian's final compensation, using it as leverage with her family." This sent a surge of anger through me. Vivian's sister Iris had 2 children in college. "There is one more thing," Travis said. "They offered me a bonus to provide evidence against you." "And will you?" "There is not any evidence to provide." He stood to leave. "I never saw this meeting happening. Neither did you." After he left, I called Catherine. "They are freezing Vivian's compensation." "I know." Her sister's attorney called. "They are claiming breach of fiduciary duty. Can they do that?" "It will not hold up, but it could tie up funds for months. That is exactly what they want. I am working on it." This was not just about me anymore. They were punishing Vivian's family to get to me. The next morning, the chief executive emailed requesting a private meeting. I forwarded it to Catherine without responding. "They are getting desperate," she replied. "Stick to the plan." By week's end, all 25 clients had confirmed they were staying with me. The initial panic faded, replaced by steady determination. I spent days meeting clients, evenings on strategic planning. I slept better than I had in years. Then came the first real complication. Zara called Friday afternoon, voice tight with stress. "Ethan, we have a situation. Your former employer is telling our investors our contract transfer was illegitimate. They are saying it could invalidate our entire financing round. That is completely false, I know. But our lead investor is spooked, talking about pulling out." Zara's startup had just secured crucial second-round funding. Losing that would be devastating. "Give me your investor's contact. Catherine will reach out. There is more. They offered to cut our service fees by 40% if we come back." The first crack in the wall. If Zara went back, others might follow. "That is a significant discount," I said carefully. "But we do not want to leave you. You and Vivian have been there from the beginning. Let me see what I can do." After hanging up, I paced my office. They were targeting the most vulnerable clients first. I called Catherine. "They are playing hardball, but so can we. I cannot match a 40% discount." "No. But you have something they do not." I could hear the smile in her voice. "You have Vivian's contingency plan." The next morning, I invited Zara to my office. Catherine was already there with a man I had never met. Tall, silver-haired, with the confident bearing of someone used to being in charge. "Zara, this is Edward Hartwell, Vivian's former mentor and the founder of her first investment group." Zara's eyes widened. Edward Hartwell was a legend in startup circles, an early investor in dozens of successful companies. "Miss Patel," he said, extending his hand. "Vivian spoke highly of your innovation. I had no idea you were involved with Ethan's company. I was not until yesterday. But Vivian asked me to keep an eye on certain situations after her passing." For the next hour, Edward outlined a partnership that would resolve Zara's investor concerns and accelerate her growth timeline. By the time she left, the crisis had transformed into an opportunity. "Thank you," I said afterward. "Vivian never mentioned she had spoken to you." Vivian kept many cards close. She contacted me before her death, explained her plan, and asked if I would step in. You agreed. Just like that. Vivian saved my company 20 years ago when everyone else had written me off. I owed her a debt. Besides, a small smile. I have been watching those executives mismanage talent for years. Over 2 weeks, similar scenarios played out with other vulnerable clients. For Paul's custom furniture business, I connected him with 3 new retail partners. For Lark's organic skincare line, I arranged a feature in a major lifestyle publication. The executive team's tactics grew desperate. They contacted clients outside business hours, spread rumors about my financial stability, sent a junior account manager to stand outside my office intercepting clients. Through it all, I maintained the calm Vivian had modeled. Never let them see you sweat. The moment you react emotionally, they believe they have won. 3 weeks after my termination, the chief executive sent another email. "We are prepared to offer you a partnership position with full executive privileges if you return the West Coast accounts. This offer expires in 48 hours. I forwarded it to Catherine. Time? Her response. Almost that evening, I spread documentation across my dining table, client contracts, transfer agreements, email correspondences. 5 months of preparation, Brandon called. The offer is genuine. Full partnership, corner office, executive compensation. And what would my role be? Strategic client management, meaning I would bring back accounts but not manage them. And you? I have been asked to facilitate the transition, meaning he had been told to get me to agree at any cost. The offer expires tomorrow, he said. I always do. I texted Catherine. They have offered partnership. Getting desperate, perfect, exactly on schedule. Meet tomorrow, 9 in the morning. Bring everything. The next morning, I arrived at Catherine's office with a briefcase full of documents. She was waiting with a colleague I had not met, a serious woman introduced as Diane from the Financial Crimes Unit. My heart raced. This was the moment Vivian had been building toward all along, not just client transfers and my new business, something much bigger. "Mr. Cross," Diane said, "I understand you have information regarding financial irregularities at your former company." I looked at Catherine, who nodded. "Yes," I replied, opening my briefcase. "I believe I do." The documents on the table represented only a fraction of what Vivian had compiled over 15 years. Evidence of systematic financial manipulation beyond simple accounting tricks. Creative revenue recognition, hidden expenses, artificially inflated contracts, a pattern of deception designed to boost executive bonuses while misleading shareholders. Vivian discovered these discrepancies 3 years ago, I explained. She began documenting everything. Why did she not report immediately? She tried internally first. When that failed, she approached a board member confidentially. 2 weeks later, her department's budget was cut and 3 staff members were let go. And she shared all this with you? Not until she knew she was dying. She needed someone to continue. The client transfers, Catherine added. They were not just about helping Ethan start a business. They were about protecting these clients from what is coming. Diane examined the documents carefully. This will take time to verify. Vivian was methodical in her documentation. As Diane left with the evidence, Catherine turned to me. You have done exactly what Vivian hoped. Maintained composure, followed the plan, delivered the final piece exactly when needed. What happens now? Now we wait, but not for long. My phone buzzed. The chief executive. Offer expires at 5 today. Last chance, I did not respond. Instead, I headed to my office by the water for afternoon client meetings. As I unlocked the door, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number. This is Ethan, Mr. Cross. Detective Morrison, Financial Crimes Division. We would like to schedule a formal interview regarding the documentation you provided. And you might want to turn on the financial news. I pulled up the headlines on my tablet. The story instantly made my breath catch. Breaking. Securities investigation launched against major consulting firm amid fraud allegations. The company's stock had already dropped in pre-market trading. My phone buzzed with notifications. Clients confirming meetings. Susan asking if I had seen the news, and a final message from the chief executive. What have you done? This was the culmination of Vivian's plan. Not just client transfers in my new business, but justice that could not be negotiated away or buried under legal threats. The news grew more detailed through the day. Trading was temporarily halted. Financial analysts dissected the allegations. By noon, executives were photographed leaving with security escorts. By 2, the board announced an emergency meeting. By 4, Brandon and 3 others were placed on administrative leave. I conducted my client meetings as scheduled. During a call with Mateo, he asked, "Did you know? Let us focus on your product launch," I replied. That evening, Catherine called. 17 current and former employees have been asked for formal interviews. Your name is at the top. They have also frozen all executive bonuses from the past 3 years. What about Vivian's family? Her compensation is being processed separately. No one wants to punish a deceased whistleblower's family right now. I smiled. Good. That is what matters most. There is something else. They found Vivian's original report from 3 years ago, the one supposedly lost when she first tried to report internally. It was buried in a restricted executive file server, so they knew all along. The entire executive team was complicit. I thanked Catherine and walked to my apartment window, watching the city lights come on. Everything unfolding exactly as Vivian had planned. Travis texted, "They are looking for scapegoats. Brandon is claiming you fabricated everything. Let him." The documentation speaks for itself. I have been asked to provide a statement about your work practices. And will you? I will tell the truth, that you were the most ethical person in that building. The next morning, Detective Morrison arrived for a 3-hour interview. I walked her through every document, every discrepancy, every attempt Vivian had made to address issues through proper channels. She kept meticulous records, Morrison observed. Vivian believed in accountability. She used to say integrity is not what you do when everyone is watching. It is what you do when you think no one is. After Morrison left, I sat alone, feeling vindication mixed with sadness. Vivian should have been here. My phone rang, an unfamiliar number with Vivian's hometown area code. "Ethan, this is Iris. Vivian's sister, Iris. How are you? I just received notification that Vivian's benefits are being released. All of them. The company's legal team suddenly became very cooperative. I am glad. There is something else. Vivian left a letter for you. My attorney was instructed to deliver it 1 month after everything happened. Can I come to you?" 2 days later, I sat in Iris's modest living room, holding an envelope with my name in Vivian's distinctive handwriting. Iris stepped outside to give me privacy. The letter was dated 1 week before she died. "Ethan, if you are reading this, everything has proceeded according to plan. The company faces investigation. The clients are safe with you. My family's financial security is preserved. What you do not yet know is why I chose you. It was not just your competence or integrity, though both are remarkable. 3 years ago, when I first discovered the irregularities, you were the only person who noticed something was wrong. With the company, yes, but more importantly with me. You asked if I was okay when no one else saw past my facade. You offered help without knowing what you were offering. In that moment, I knew you were different. The company will paint me as vindictive. Perhaps there is some truth in that. But my real motivation was justice. For myself, for you, for every person whose career was stifled because they would not play by corrupted rules. The portfolio I left you is not just clients. It is opportunity. Build something better than what we experienced. Create the company we always deserved. One final thing, in the safety deposit box you will find a key to a storage unit. Inside is everything you need to understand the full depth of what we uncovered. Use it wisely. Vivian, I folded the letter, tears blurring my vision. Even now, she was still guiding me. The next morning, I visited the storage unit. Inside was a filing cabinet with detailed dossiers on every executive. Their financial dealings, decision histories, vulnerabilities. Information gathered meticulously over 15 years. A separate folder labeled Board Connections documented how each board member had been selected not for oversight but for willingness to look the other way. Copies of emails, meeting recordings. Evidence so comprehensive it took my breath away. I called Catherine and Morrison immediately. This was not just about financial irregularities. This was systematic corruption at every level. Within days, the investigation expanded. The board chairman resigned. 3 more executives were placed on leave. The company's stock continued its descent. Through it all, my business grew steadily. Clients who had trusted Vivian now trusted me. Word spread about a new firm that prioritized ethical practices and client success. 6 months after my termination, I leased a larger office in the same waterfront building. My team had grown to 5 full-time employees, including Susan, who resigned from Oak Ridge the day after the investigation became public. On our first morning in the new space, a package arrived. A framed photograph of Vivian standing on the beach near her hometown, looking out at the horizon with characteristic determination. A note from Iris. She would want this in your new office. I hung it in the reception area, directly across from the entrance where every visitor would see it. Beneath it, I placed a small plaque with the words that had guided me through the past year. Successes is not climbing their ladder. It is building your own. That afternoon, Travis arrived looking uncomfortable. Nice place. Very different from the old office. That is the point. What brings you here? I was offered a position at what is left of the company. Congratulations. He shook his head. I turned it down. It does not feel right. Being rewarded for surviving when I was part of the system. What will you do? I do not know. Start over. Try to do better. I considered him for a long moment. We have an opening junior position, less money than you are used to, but honest work. His surprise was evident. You would hire me after everything? Vivian believed in second chances, and you warned me when you had no obligation. The following week, our team gathered for the official opening. Clients, friends, former colleagues who had reached out after leaving Oak Ridge. Iris came with her children, moved by her sister's photograph prominently displayed. I looked around at what we had built. Not just a business, but a community founded on principles Vivian had valued. I felt her presence as strongly as if she stood beside me. The investigation continued to unfold, revealing deeper layers of misconduct than even Vivian had documented. The company that had once seemed invincible was fighting for survival. Its reputation in tatters, its leadership disbanded. But that was not my concern anymore. My focus was on building something new, something better. Not revenge for its own sake, but justice that created opportunity for growth. In the end, the most powerful revenge was not destroying what had hurt us. It was creating something so much better that the comparison itself became a judgment. Vivian had known that all along, and now so did I.